How's it going, everybody? JT here on behalf of the ETH Finance Daily General Discussion on our Ethereum with the EV Mavericks. We have broke $4,000 on the chart. I've only aged 10 years. My friend Harkness has only aged 5 years because he works for an incredible team called Shutter Network. So we're gonna be jumping in with him pretty quick here. So big thanks again to the EV Mavericks for hosting this happy hour for this day, August 8th. A very hot Kansas, August 8th, 2025. And this is episode 120 for the Doots podcast. I hope that everybody's found our channels out there in the world. We've got two places on X, my Twitter handle, as well as the EV Mavericks Twitter handle, and the YouTube channel, Twitch, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, that's right. So all the professionals can tune in and act like they know anything. All right. So, Loring Harkness, first and foremost, thank you so much for allowing us to move our schedule around a little bit. And you could be so accommodating for us. We really appreciate it. We usually air at 2 p.m. Eastern. We had to move it to 3 p.m. Eastern to help out all the little children. That's a fact. That's a fact. So thanks again for joining us. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be on.
We have 12 Meatballs in the audience. 12 Meatballs done a little bit of research. 12 Meatballs is a Redditor that helps with the creative content behind the scenes, and ran across this little origin story of yours. I believe it had something to do with Myanmar. Do you want to... Let's, before we talk crypto and get all gawky about the price and everything, that's in the moment now. But you have a real world story about maybe some of the reasons that crypto has become such an important part of what you do. Can you take us back? What happened?
Yeah. Actually, today is an auspicious day, the 8th of August. For those of you who know a little bit about Myanmar history, and about Myanmar culture, you'll know that the number 8 is a lucky number. And on August 8th, 1988, there was this massive popular uprising in Myanmar, people protesting the military dictatorship, which had been in power for more than 20 years. And millions of people across the country participated in protests and in general strikes. And unfortunately, the military tried to suppress this pro-democracy activity with a brutal crackdown. And I believe hundreds or thousands of people were shot and killed in the street. And that incident led to kind of the re-entry of Aung San Suu Kyi into Myanmar politics to reinvigorate and lead the pro-democracy movement for essentially, ever since then. And so this is a day, just happens to be a coincidence that I'm on the show today. But today is a day where Myanmar people in Myanmar and all around the world are celebrating democracy, yearning for democracy, and keeping in their hearts and minds the people who, have suffered and sometimes died for pro-democracy in Myanmar. So that's just kind of a coincidence. That's not about me, obviously. When that happened.
Yeah, well, I was just showing a map on the second. Yeah, I was showing a map on the second screen just so people kind of have an idea. Like India to the west, and Bangladesh butts up pretty close, and it borders Thailand as well. So, and then it's China, right? I'm seeing that up here.
China to the northeast.
Okay, that's a busy part of the world. So you're saying back in '88, the uprising led to the deaths of, did you say hundreds of thousands of people?
I think I said hundreds or thousands, but I just did a quick search, and the best estimates are between 3,000 and 10,000 people were killed.
Okay, well, that's definitely more than enough. Wow. Okay, so 8 is significant. Okay, that's interesting. And you've lived here.
Yeah.
You were from here your whole life.
No, no. I was born and raised in the United States, and kind of through a series of fateful turns, I started doing financial inclusion work in Southeast Asia about 15 years ago. And then in 2015, there was the beginning of a pro-democracy of a democratic era in Myanmar. And like many people, I wanted to be a part of that democratic transformation and the establishment of political freedoms and a robust civil society. And I was living in Singapore at the time, and my wife and I moved up to Myanmar. And we lived in Myanmar. I was doing financial inclusion work there for 5 years, from 2015 until early 2021. And that was a wonderful time to be in Myanmar, because to give you an idea about how much things had changed, when I first moved there, a SIM card, just the SIM card, not even the phone, cost more than $2,000.
What year was this?
This was 2014, 2015.
Gotcha. Jeez.
Yeah. And so, they were prohibitively expensive for 99% of the population. No one had one. And then 5 years later, you were getting SIM cards for free, on every street corner. There was a telco boom. There was a startup boom. There was a financial inclusion boom. There was a political boom. It was a wonderful, beautiful time to be in that country. And unfortunately, on February 1st, 2021, in the early morning, there was a military coup. And some of you might have seen that meme of a young woman doing her workout routine and all of these black SUVs speeding by her in the background. And that was actually live footage of the coup taking place. Those black SUVs were military troops basically going to arrest and imprison the democratically elected leaders. And it was a really scary time. I remember waking up in the morning around 6 a.m. and it was dead silent. No one was out on the street. There was no telco service, no reception anywhere. And for a couple days, people basically just stayed home. They were scared. They didn't know what was going on. Kind of word of mouth was the only news. And that's
right. That's during COVID, right?
This is after COVID.
Right after COVID.
Yeah, I guess after the first brunt of COVID. Yeah.
Got it. So yeah, I'm wondering if what a freaking dystopian nightmare.
But the following days were really interesting because people flooded out into the streets of Yangon, the largest city where I lived, and they came dressed in their work uniforms or in their other ways that displayed who they were as people. So we had engineers with their high-vis clothing. There were nurses in OR scrubs. There were teachers in their green teachers uniforms. And there were also drag queens in full drag, and there were people in cosplay costumes, and
it became a festival.
Yeah, I mean, it had a very festive atmosphere at times. People almost like celebrating the diversity and celebrating, all of the freedoms which they had enjoyed for the past 5 years. But unfortunately, just like previous pro-democracy movements, the military did come in with a very violent approach, began shooting people Um, there was a there were kind of different ways of protesting or fighting the military. Some people left their homes in the city and went into the mountainous areas to create guerrilla forces, which later became known as PDFs, or People's Defense Forces. Other people who were primarily civil servants, people like doctors and teachers and administrators, just refused to go to work. They refused to be a part of this new military dictatorship government. And those people became known as CDMers, or Civil Disobedience Movement members. And there was a brutal crackdown on all forms of pro-democracy and all forms of dissent. And so what arose organically in a very messy fashion was an effort to fund these various pro-democracy actors and groups. And so a large number of people basically turned their daily activity towards bringing in money from outside of the country, not from governments or organizations, but just donations of people who, support democracy, people from all over the world, $5 and $10 here and there. Or doing fundraising from people in Myanmar themselves, and then kind of directing it to these individuals and organizations. But what the military did was they basically leveraged the telco and TradFi banking systems to systematically mine data. And they actually received help and consulting services from some of the most sophisticated kind of espionage private security companies in the world. And they used this data and these surveillance techniques to identify pro-democracy actors and then either seize their assets or, in some cases, arrest them. And I just want to bring this back to crypto now and kind of tell the two stories of two people who are close to me. One of them is a graphic designer who used to work for my wife. And he drew a protest cartoon of people banging on pots and pans. There were no words. It was just a cartoon. It went viral, and he was arrested and sentenced to life in prison.
Life.
And he's still there now. God. Yeah. On the other hand, one of my friends, he learned from a cousin of his that he was on an arrest list. And so what he did was he withdrew all of his funds from the bank. He bought Bitcoin, and then he memorized his seed phrase. He put his seed phrase in the brain wallet.
Andreas Antonopoulos would be proud.
And then he hired human traffickers to smuggle him through the jungle into Thailand. And there he declared himself a refugee, got support from UNHCR, and was able to resettle in a first world country, and is now pursuing a master's degree. So, for many people in Myanmar, crypto and its properties, of pseudonymity. I always watch that one.
That's good. You did good, man.
Censorship resistance, permissionlessness, anti-fragility, all of these attributes that blockchains and crypto have, these enabled people in Myanmar to self-custody their assets, and in some cases it made the difference between being imprisoned or leading a happy, robust life.
Tale of two worlds. Those two stories are so opposite in the outcomes. And, God. And why is he still in prison after all this time?
Because, unfortunately, the dictator is just so incensed by any type of dissent whatsoever. He feels personally attacked when someone criticizes him. And as a result, because this went viral, it was enough to provoke his vengeance.
Is the dictator still in power to this day?
He is.
Okay, so...
And of course, I just want to say, I can't speak for Myanmar people. I'm not Myanmar myself, obviously. But I was there, and I can share about my personal experience and, to some extent, the experiences of people I know. But I think the world does need to know what happened and what is still happening, because there is still a very active pro-democracy movement in Myanmar and globally, and there is a complex and multi-party civil war, which is being played out, and the people of Myanmar are the victim, right?
Yeah, no, I love this side of, like, you've seen where, like, cryptocurrency has actually saved the life of somebody. I mean, and in these struggling areas, perhaps a stable coin kind of network could help, dollarize Myanmar and hopefully get political influence rolling and try to flip out this dictatorship and with as little bloodshed as possible. And so what, tell me again, did you say Yangon? I'm looking on the map here. What city were you in?
Right there in that delta, at the center of the map. Yep, there you go. That's Yangon, formerly known as Rangoon. And that's the largest city in the country.
And my favorite appetizer. Okay, that was appropriation. All right, so let's go now. Okay, so you're back in the States. You're now...
I'm actually based in Germany now.
You're in Germany.
So, okay. At some point...
what the heck? You were United States, Myanmar, Singapore, Germany. Were your parents in the military? Like, how did you get started being a nomad?
I just started traveling at some point.
Cool.
Realized that the world is bigger and more beautiful than I will ever understand or appreciate. And I just love exploring as many corners of it as I can.
Yeah, well, you haven't lived until you've been to Western Kansas. That's obviously a joke. Trust me,
but
it's fine.
After I left Myanmar, a buddy of mine was on this, or a buddy of mine was had a call scheduled with this blockchain crypto venture builder based in Germany. Okay. And he invited me to sit in on the call. And he told me, Lauren, you don't need to say anything. Just listen in, and after the call, let's debrief, because I'm kind of interested in hearing, your opinion of things. I had nothing better to do, so I agreed to listen in, and I fell down the rabbit hole.
Okay, so
this
was your formative galvanizing moment. You had no exposure to crypto other than your friend getting out of the country with Bitcoin, or were you kind of into it a little bit, but this is like your first time actually watching somebody build in a business meeting kind of environment, and you're like, okay, I have to do this?
So I had two very small brushes with crypto prior to that. Back in 2018, I was working as an associate for a VC firm. So basically scouting deals and doing triage before the partners took a look at them. And because it was 2018, everyone was talking about ICOs, and we received a lot of proposals to invest in exchanges and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, I remember.
Appreciate the soundbite. That's awesome. And then actually, there was one time in Yangon, I think around the same time, where someone came to one of the local co-working spaces and did an Ethereum 101 kind of course, and took us through the steps of what is Ethereum, actually helped us all set up wallets, and I won, I think, like maybe half an ETH or something in a pop quiz.
That's
and
awesome.
I since lost the seed phrase and it's gone. But mid 2021 is kind of where I really fell down the rabbit hole. And it turns out that the company. Oh, so to continue the story, I fell down the rabbit hole, and I messaged the company that we had just had a call with, and I said, guys, I want to have another call with you, and I want to pitch you on your business. Because if I can explain your business to you, then I'll know that I really understand it. And so I pitched them, and I nailed it, and we started working on a project for internally displaced people in Myanmar. And then after a few months, the relationship was so good, and I was kind of looking for a new place to call home and a new company to work with. And so they invited me to Germany, and I've been with that company ever since. And that company is BrainBot.
Okay,
which
that's the parent
is a crypto
company.
venture builder.
Gotcha.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So yeah, that's always the best story, when it's like you got exposed to it through a real business thing. It wasn't a speculative gamble like the ICO days were. You had people that were like, okay, rubber meets the road, we want to build something. So BrainBot is this upstart firm, and out of that, this kind of brings us full circle to Shutter. What is Shutter Network? So
the easiest way to explain Shutter, and I actually just tweeted this. So how would I explain Shutter to my mom? Well, basically, Shutter makes simultaneous move games fair by ensuring that no player can see another player's move before making their own move. And
so it's just a commit reveal scheme.
Okay, that was Logri the Bard is our Logri's on. Logri the Bard's our technical interviewer from tokenomicsexplained.com. Go ahead, Logri.
Yeah, so we see this in oracles like UMA, where it's supposed to reach subjective consensus, but if everyone knows everyone else's vote before the reveal, then your optimal vote is always basically the mean of everyone's vote at that point, right? So it's not, at that point, it's not a truth oracle, it's a just vote what everyone else votes oracle, which is not the goal. So to get around that problem, they have a commit phase where everyone pushes the truth in a hidden way, and then like a encryption phase where everyone's votes are revealed and then tallied.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the technology which powers Shutter is commit and reveal threshold encryption. And, I always like to start off with kind of the value proposition and leave kind of the tech explanation for later. But you jumped the gun and hit the nail on the head. You're exactly right.
So is the goal here to be an oracle, or let's get back to the value proposition? What are you doing with this reveal thing? Are people making positions like a Dutch auction? They're saying, I think ETH is worth this, or I think this ICO is worth that, and then the system acts on those votes once they're revealed? Or is this, if this isn't price discovery, is this some type of coordination system he should, are we voting for something different, or is it just another form of Oracle?
Yeah, great question. So Shutter is an encryption protocol, and we do essentially encryption as a service for blockchains and applications which need commit and reveal threshold encryption. And those simultaneous move games that I mentioned, run from super trivial to some of the most important games in the world. And on the super trivial side, we've got games like rock, paper, scissors. And then somewhere in the middle, we have things like auctions and pari-mutuel betting, bounties, time capsules. And then over on the super important side of things, we actually have transaction ordering in the Ethereum transaction supply chain itself. And so we can go into detail about as many of those use cases as you would like.
Oh, let's pick them apart. Obviously, rock, paper, scissors. Simple enough conceptually, but what are the rock, paper, scissors styles games that are on the blockchain? Is this things like Funfair? I know that there was a provably fair mechanism built into that, but I don't remember how it worked. But what are the sort of trivial games? Are there actually blockchain-based games that are using this for their resolution, or is it something else?
Yeah, actually, rock, paper, scissors is a wonderful example to explain some of the core concepts. And so I'll take a minute and I will actually challenge JT to a few games of rock, paper, scissors.
Let's go.
I know.
I gotta get the hype music up. Okay, enough of that. Let's do it.
Okay. So rock, paper, scissors, really simple. On the count of 3, 1, 2.
No, we need to do rock,
3?
paper, scissors, and then shoot. That's the right way to go.
There's enough lag. You could have done this, but okay. We'll go again. 1, 2, 3,
Okay,
shoot.
on
Fine.
3. On
Fine.
3.
1, 2, 3,
On
shoot.
3.
Okay, we'll do 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Okay. Ready?
And, yeah.
By the way, we call that a protocol.
Ready? Start over. Logree's giving you an edge, and I don't trust it.
Twice. Now it's distorted.
Damn it, I have to win this.
This is actually perfect. We don't even need to play the game because the lag kind of makes my point for me.
Let's do it.
So
ready? I still want to do it. I got to try. Come on.
You still wanna
Come
do
on,
it?
let's
Okay.
go. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I'm scissors. Oh, that's a tie. Now
Instant
what do we do?
rematch.
Rematch.
Yeah,
Ready?
instant rematch.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Hey, I won.
Shit. Okay. I hang my head in shame.
We just went from like super heavy like Civil War stuff to rock, paper, scissors, fun and games in about 30 seconds.
We need that. We need that.
Yeah. But okay, so rock, paper, scissors is a simultaneous move game, which means that unlike sequential move games like chess or tic-tac-toe, rock, paper, scissors has a rule where we both make our moves at the same time, right? And in order for rock, paper, scissors or any other simultaneous move game to be fair, basically each player needs to commit to their move without being able to see the other player's move first, right? So there needs to be information symmetry. No player can know what the other player is doing to inform their decision. So if we kind of
can still have multiple steps, like you can play multiple rounds of rock, paper, scissors, do best of 3 and other things, right? In the same way that you can have continuous games like nuclear disarmament or something that would still be based on this type of topic, right? Like you disarm, no, you disarm. Well, we're both going to, reveal our hand at the same time. It has a certain fairness to it that gets over the no, you go first. Same action would apply to markets. Okay, everyone hold their ETH. We're all going to buy at the same time. 3, 2, like no one wants to be the first to have to, or the last to have to buy, right? You always want to be like first to buy, but be sure that everyone else is going to buy behind you, and that just doesn't work. So instead, we get a lot of defections if you try to sequence it. And as I'm sure you're about to go to next, A block is a simultaneous game because all the transactions within a block are minted to the blockchain at the same time. Within that block, there is a sequence of events, but the block is an atomic thing.
Absolutely right. Let me get through the core concept first, and then happy to come back to that. So JT, let's imagine a new type of rock, paper, scissors, where we count to 3 and you show your move, and then we count 4, 5, 6, and then I can show my move. How does that sound?
Let's do it. I'm still going to lose.
We don't even need to play this game because we know that I'm going to win every single time because I have the benefit of information asymmetry. I have the benefit of seeing your move before playing mine.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like, how can we make this more fair? How can we ensure that no one, that I can't see your move before I make mine? Well, we could imagine that we bring in a trusted third party, right? And they're going to hold up like a screen. And then you're going to commit to your move behind the screen, and I'm going to commit to my move behind the screen, and then the trusted third party is going to take the screen away and reveal both of our moves. Well, that would be commit and reveal encryption, kind of in a manual form, right? But we're introducing a trusted third party in order to do it. And obviously, everyone listening to this pod should have alarm bells ringing in their head when we introduce trusted third parties, right? Because trusted third parties are prone to manipulation and corruption. So, I mean, kind of, let's take this big picture. Imagine that we were playing for $1 million. $1 million was on the line. Well, I would be happy to bribe the judge $99 million for the screen holder, right? I would be happy to
into his microphone, into your ear, and tell you what the other opponents. Yeah,
that's right. Leak information to me.
It's super critical that the move once decided can't be changed, right? There has to be a kind of a settlement.
Like a lock-in.
And there's a lot of games that do this with cards. Like everyone puts a card face down the table and then we flip it at the same time, and so you can tell that no one's moved and changed. That does it without a trusted third party, right? But it does require visibility, that every player can validate that every other player has made a selection and now it cannot be changed. And blockchains are great for that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So what Shutter does is we do commit and reveal encryption, but we don't insert ourselves as a trusted third party. What we do is we have a network, a distributed network of nodes, which collaborate together to generate encryption and decryption keys. And so just in the same way as all of us prefer a distributed network of nodes, a blockchain, to secure our digital assets, rather than a bank, a trusted third party. So too with Shutter, in order to manage the commit and reveal encryption, we have a distributed network of nodes to manage that so that we don't have to introduce and trust a third party.
That's fantastic.
So that's kind of the key concept, obviously applied to a very trivial game. But as I mentioned, it can be applied to auctions, pari-mutual betting, bounties, time capsules, and the Ethereum transaction supply chain itself.
It's fantastic. So who's using this?
Well, we have a lot of people who are using it for a lot of different things. So our first implementation was back in, I believe it was 2022, providing private voting on Snapshot. And since then, shielded voting, as we like to call it, which is private voting by Shutter, has been used by 634 DAOs on Snapshot. it has protected over 300,000 votes.
Wow.
And if we look at kind of retention, DAOs who sign up for shielded voting, 80%, 87% of them are still using shielded voting a year later. So that was our first implementation. And then a little more than a year ago, we implemented encrypted mempools on Gnosis chain. So basically ensuring fair ordering of transactions on Gnosis chain, preventing malicious MEV, and making the network more resistant to real-time censorship. And this year, we have been basically dogfooding the new Shutter API and launching tons of applications which use Shutter in the background. And those include an RFP platform, and most recently, and my favorite, the Ethereum time capsule. We all know that the Ethereum 10-year anniversary, happened just last week. And so what we did to help celebrate the Ethereum 10-year anniversary is we created a commit and reveal threshold encryption time capsule where anyone and everyone could essentially, you've got it on the screen there. So for 1 month, the full month of July, people could, and if you click on one of those cards at the top, so anyone could create one of these cards and scroll down to see the card. There you go. And so you can see that somebody created this card with an image and some text, and then they encrypted it. And this card and every other card will be encrypted for 1 year, and they will all be revealed or decrypted at the same time on 30th July of 2026 on Ethereum 11 anniversary.
So, okay. So this is going to resolve into an image or some kind of artifact that is not just this art. I mean, this is kind of art already, but so these are all encrypted. Right. Okay, that's fascinating.
So the text is all encrypted by Shutter, and then the images are dithered and pixelated.
That's I freaking love this.
So this is kind of a fun application of commit and reveal threshold encryption.
Yeah, and anybody can try to hack it. Ain't gonna happen. It's neat. So this is the first that I've heard about this Ethereum time capsule. That's really neat.
Yeah, we had 259 entries from communities all across Ethereum, everyone from Claros to Arbitrum to ETH Ireland to ETH Taipei, and many, many more. And one of my favorite things about it is that every capsule entry cost a nominal fee of 0.001 ETH, or about $4. And all of that money was donated to Protocol Guild to fund Ethereum core developers. And we did that partly because we love public goods, but partly because we wanted a spam prevention technique so that if Solana bros or other Alt L1 bros wanted to spam the time capsule, right? It's permissionless. They're more than welcome to, but in doing so, they'd be funding Ethereum core developers.
That's fun. What are the odds that at least one of those is going to resolve into a QR code that people scan and then they just get rickrolled?
I'm sure at least one of them will be. But my favorite, and this is actually my Ethereum time capsule entry. At ECC in Cannes, there was a speakers soiree on the rooftop, and we got all of the speakers together and took a group photo. And it was actually Jerome, the lead organizer for ECC, who took the photo, and he sent it to me and to no one else. And everyone came up to me and said, "Hey, Lauren, can I get a copy of that photo? I'd love to tweet it." I said, "I'd be happy to give you a copy of that photo." In 1 year.
In 1 year.
When it decrypts on the Ethereum time capsule. Until then, Jerome and I are the people who have it.
I'm gonna reveal something. I know Jerome, and I've recently learned that, and our community on Reddit will know this very well. So I'm gonna do a little reveal. I can't believe that the Paris ETH, is he not the main organizer for ETH Paris? He's one of them, right? Jerome, are we talking about the same person?
President of Ethereum France.
Yeah, Jerome D.E. How do you say his last name? Do you know? God, I don't.
My German's better than my French.
Yeah, well, my Midwest French is not actually French. So anyway, just to drop the little nugget on everybody that's listening, if you're here and you're in the audience, you'll know this. After today, you will know that Jerome, president of ETH Paris or ETH France, is JS Tears, our haiku guy. So there's your inside baseball golf clap of the moment. So there you go. He's a guy that writes a haiku.
Been doing it for years.
Writes a haiku nearly every day, if not every day, for our Ethereum daily general discussion. Or he was writing it back on ETH Trader because he has a personal challenge. He's going to write a haiku every day until we beat Bitcoin on the ratio. So here's to another 20 years of haikus. Yeah, we'll see. It may be faster than that. Who knows? But yeah, JS Tears, that's our guy. Yeah, I don't care if I blew the lid off of him, doxed him, but he'd be fine with it. He always posts stuff.
That is an impressive feat.
It is. I mean, to be able to do all the shit that he's doing and then still have time to post a haiku every day on our humble little Reddit side of the world, I love it. We're lucky, very lucky.
But Lockers, you mentioned earlier Ethereum blocks being a simultaneous move game. Do you want to get into Shutter and the Ethereum transaction supply chain?
Of course.
Wonderful.
Let's nerd out.
Yeah. I do have to preface this by saying I'm on the business side. I'm not on the tech side. So if we get too deep into, kind of protocol operations.
I'm not going any deeper than we can actually explain. We have an audience, and I'm not just trying to do them all, right? So if we can explain something well, then let's get into it and nerd out. But otherwise, no deeper.
Sounds great. So I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with MEV. I'm sure everyone has heard the term, but I know that there's a lot of confusion around what MEV
It means
actually...
a lot of different things, and even the acronym MEV at some point changed from minor extractable value to maximum extractable value or something. So the term itself has changed over the years. Our understanding of it has changed over the years. You see many flavors. Some are viable in some environments, not in others, right? And I'm sure people could use a recap, but in a nutshell, it's the money you can make by choosing transaction orders somehow, right? Like in very different ways. And that could be sandwich attacking someone who's got to trade and collecting all their slippage. That could be reordering events so that you get there first, and then you can sell something. That could be any number of just imagine any time a sequence of something matters. A common case for this is obviously trading. I've talked about exchange ordering mattering a lot, but there's a lot of other places you can do this at, like an L2 layer when things are settling, at a sequencer layer at an L2, right? So it's just on the L1, and it's not just for the one validator who got selected, to lead block block proposing for the current epoch. It's kind of a pervasive thing that happens in many places. So let's go from there.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, MEV actually encompasses many different things. Some of them absolutely horrible, and some of them highly beneficial. And just to kind of pull out two examples, on the horrible side of things, we have things like sandwich attacks, where basically what happens is when you're making a DEX swap, trading one token for another token on chain, someone actually bribes the block builder and to some extent other transaction supply chain actors in order to insert their transactions both before and after your transaction. And by executing this transaction ordering attack, they're basically giving you the worst price possible that
Without the transaction burden,
that you specified you would accept. So they're basically just kind of manipulating the transaction order to steal money from you and to benefit themselves. On the other hand, we have things like backrunning, arbitrage, where somebody basically sees your trade, your DEX swap, and they see that that has created a different price between one DEX and a different DEX somewhere else. And then what they do is they place a transaction immediately after your transaction in order to balance out those prices and take advantage of the difference. And in that case,
then they also get people that front run that. So one guy wants to do that, another guy wants to do it more firster, right? And so you get these kind of games where most of those arbitrage gains end up going in some way either to tip or to bribe the censors.
That's right. And I guess just to make it simple for people who are listening in, I generally think of sandwich attacks as a type of malicious MEV because this MEV gives the user a worse price than they were expecting. On the other hand, backrunning, arbitrage, I think of as benign MEV. And I would say it's benign to the user and probably beneficial to the market as a whole. But it's benign to the user because the user does not get a worse price than they were expecting. They get the exact price that they were expecting, but the user, just because of a lack of sophistication, left some money on the table. And so they didn't take full advantage of that opportunity to rebalance those two DEX pools or prices. And so they're not getting a worse price. They're just letting someone else capture some value that they're not sophisticated enough to capture.
And so in both cases, you get some race conditions there. And when you get those race conditions of I'm going to sandwich attack him, no, I'm going to sandwich attack the sandwich attacker, even more first, you get some funny things that happen. And so the closer you are to the source of truth, if you're just blindly submitting bids, you're not winning that, right? The closer you are to source of truth, like if you are basically the Flashbots relayer, right? You're the one who really gets to decide that instead, right?
Yep.
And so most of the profit from that actually ekes out from the person who wishes to attack and into the bribe game in order to be closer to the source of truth, right? It kind of like when the Fed prints money, most of it goes to the people closest to the Fed, Yeah. Here we're printing blocks, and most of the money goes to the people to the block building.
Yeah. And so the reason why we're discussing this and where Shutter fits in is because Shutter has a moonshot goal of implementing encrypted mempools on Ethereum mainnet. And basically what this means is that, I'll contrast kind of the current transaction supply chain with what it would look like with encrypted mempools. So right now, with unencrypted transactions, a user, submits their transaction, and then these MEV bots can see the contents of their transaction. And because they can see the contents of the transaction, they can identify opportunities for front-running or sandwich attacks. And when they identify those
transactions, they identify how to win, right? Just like playing rock paper scissors.
That's right. Yeah. And so they essentially bribe the block builder in order to add their transactions to the block. It's more complicated than that, but that's kind of the light version. And then with encrypted mempools, the user will actually be able to encrypt their transaction before it goes into the public mempool. And as a result, these MEV bots will not be able to see the contents of the transaction. And then
the transaction, and what else can they see about it? Like the amount of gas it's estimated to take, the bid for it?
Yeah, there is some metadata which is leaked, but there are also ways to kind of pad the transaction so that you're not revealing anything substantive about the nature of the transaction through the metadata. And then basically, through the transaction supply chain, the transactions will be ordered in the block, and then only after the transaction is ordered in the block is it decrypted and the contents are revealed. And that's a critical piece there, because malicious MEV is a type of transaction ordering attack, or kind of reordering transactions. And so if the order of transactions in the block is fixed, then it's decrypted. That means there's no longer an opportunity for these MEV bots to reorder the transactions in the block, and you're safe from malicious MEV.
Excellent.
How do you socialize the decryption key in time to get it into a block? Because we're trying to make blocks faster. There's latency at all levels. There's already bandwidth is the most restrictive thing on the L1 between nodes anyway. So how much is that overhead of saying, okay, I've submitted my encrypted thing to the mempool. The blocks say I'm gonna include this one, right? The block builder says I'm gonna include this one. Will you please give me a decryption key, right? Is there at what point, if I fail to provide the decryption key, does the block go ahead without me and they have to change their opinion, or it goes and I have to pay the gas even though there's basically no ops on chain or something? Like, how does that? There is some sequencing here, and we're already doing things on pretty tight times.
Yeah. I guess kind of two answers there. A lot of the details are beyond me, and I would need to bring in our protocol devs in order to explain them accurately and sufficient detail. But I will say, from a general perspective, Shutter's vision for implementing encrypted mempools on Ethereum mainnet is not born from a desire to insert ourselves and our keeper set into the Ethereum transaction supply chain. Encrypted mempools, and specifically commit and reveal encryption, can be done in lots of different ways using different technologies. And our vision, threshold encryption using multi-party computation, and I guess even more specifically using our keeper set, is merely just one way to implement encrypted mempools. And so our vision is that we can have a technology agnostic implementation of encrypted mempools, and then we can have kind of different ways of encrypting and decrypting data, which will have different properties in each way. And so some people might choose to use TEEs for the encryption. Other people might prefer threshold encryption. There might be other ways as well.
Excellent.
Okay. That's a thorough non-answer, but I'll take
I mean, as I said, the exact details I would need to refer to our protocol devs about. But also, I do think it is important to note that, our vision for encrypted mempools is a principled one, and it is a technology agnostic one.
Sure. Okay. I mean, even if you didn't have any cooperation or very minimal cooperation from Ethereum, right? One solution would just be to package the encrypted transaction in a block and then have the next block referred to that and execute it, kind of like a unfurling and just a safe transaction or something, right? Where you can basically aggregate a bunch of messages in order to do authorization on executing something, right? The decryption could be done within execution, but that's just probably too heavy of a lift, and you'd get these weird situations where you have to basically go through 2 blocks for every transaction. So there's a few considerations there.
I'm going to have to add some links to some ECC and Protocol Berg chats or presentations which my colleagues have done, so that you can get kind of the full details. But one of the things which we're really excited about is something we call the Holy Trinity of censorship resistance. And that is the combination of Fossil, which is inclusion lists, EPBS, which is removing trusted relays and replacing them with an attestation committee, and encrypted mempools. And our protocol devs tell me that these 3 technologies, Fossil, EPBS, and encrypted mempools, really complement and reinforce one another. And just how they do so, I'll leave it to them to explain. But as you may have noted on the All Core Developers call, there was strong support for adding both EPBS and Fossil in Glamsterdam, the hard fork after Fusaka. And so we see this as a very important stepping stone towards our vision of implementing this holy trinity of censorship resistance.
That sounds good.
It's coming. It's exciting. It's generally exciting stuff, right? It's interesting because you get. I heard Andrew Keys. I heard Tommy Lee. They both said something to the effect of, we're doing all of this inside the U.S. All of our validators, now they've got 1 million each stake that's inside the U.S., and we're only going to process transactions that are compliant with U.S. law. So if U.S. law says, okay, you can't process these transactions, now we have a significant part of the validator set that would be censoring. Like, the threat of censorship is actually picking up as a result of the treasury companies online. So you might be just in time to give them all the plausible deniability, saying, yeah, it's illegal to process a transaction for, I don't know, Russia, North Korea, whatever, but we couldn't know. Right? So you either are de facto banning us being validators, but you want to support the US dollar in this whole stablecoin thing, right? And you kind of put them in a difficult position. Do they want the blockchain for all the good and the bad, or not, right? Like, you kind of give them a binary option that says validation's illegal because you might process something for North Korea, or you put them in a position where you say, yeah, as long as you didn't willfully do it, you can be a validator. But then guess what? You have no way of knowing you're going to break the law before it's revealed, right? So it's you might be onto something rather timely at the moment.
That's a super important point. I was just about to make it myself, but you took the words right out of my mouth.
I keep stealing your thunder. It's BS.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Well, Loring, before we move on to the second half of the show, Are you going to stick around? Do you want to help us be a color commentator on Reddit? How's your timeline looking?
I've got a little bit more time. It's Friday night. It's 10 o'clock. I'm not doing anything else, so let's do it.
Okay, that sounds good. Before we do that, is there anything else you want to add about Shutter Network or BrainBot? Are you guys coming to ETH Denver? Do you ever do ETH Denver?
I've been to One ETH Denver. That was a few years ago. Would love to go again.
You should go.
Also, I'm a Boulderite, born and raised.
Really?
Just up Highway 36 from Denver. Yep.
I grew up on Highway 36 in Kansas. On the Kansas side. Yeah, that's funny.
I have been to West Kansas. I do have to admit that.
There you go. So yeah,
you've memories of it, but I've been there.
You've seen the cathedral on the plains outside Victoria, probably. Yeah, there's a buffalo or two, or bison, I should say. They'll crucify me if I say buffalo.
But Owaki is working on East Boulder, and so I'm particularly excited about that.
Okay, so I haven't talked to him yet, but I've barbecued in Denver. I drive my smokers from Kansas City all the way to Denver, and I barbecued for Kevin Owaki twice at his private Airbnb for, whatever super modular or Gitcoin group he has out there. So maybe we'll cross paths. I would be willing. I would support ETH Boulder for sure. And I just like being in Denver.
Hopefully I'll see you there.
Hopefully I see you there, man. Okay, good. Well, with that, it is time, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to switch gears over onto our second monitor here for the Doots. This is the weekly roundup. This is an amazing part of our show. For those of you who haven't had a chance, you should come stop by the subreddit or Ethereum and join the daily general discussion. So the weekly Doots live stream is all about showcasing the best of the week from the daily on our Ethereum. It's a read-along reaction series. If you want to follow along, head to dailydoots.com, designed and produced by our very own Hani Abu. Big thanks to Tricky Troll for capturing and curating each day's Doots, and the A-Word for curating this beloved weekly list. We've also added 12 meatballs to the team, helping us out on the background with some creation as well. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. Just search ETH Finance, EV Mavericks. If you want to support this channel, you can mint all of our episodes at pods.media/EV Mavericks, or just buy us a coffee at dailydoots.eth. And as always, if you know someone who wants a piece of this action, send them my way. Well, here we are. We're going to hit it right here at the top of our announcement for this week. ETH has broken $4,000. Pretty convincing. I'd love to get some follow through. I'll start to get excited once we get past that all-time high. It seems like everybody else gets to have a party. Why shouldn't we? Our rich list for this week: Aiden Cairo joins the list at 118, Ethical Trade at 118, tied up, Crypto Wild Currency at 122, JS Tears at 122, Hani Abu at 134, Tricky Troll at 160, Benito 2030 at 175, Logri the Bard at 223, Superfizz at 228, and Harog is about to cross the 250 mark, sitting at 249 as of this week. All right, very good. And then we're going to move on to our weekly roundups. Let's check out. Oh, you know what else I forgot to do? I forgot to go down here. We got our events coming up. Berkeley, USA, the SBC Science of Blockchain Conference, August 4th through the 6th. That's already over. August 14th, Pragma, New York. August 15th, ETH Global, New York. Lagos, August 28th, and it goes on from there. Istanbul, Warsaw, Boston Blockchain Week, and Sofia. We got so many things on the cooker. All right, now to our weekly roundups. And we'll open this up. I never read these ahead of time. They're all selected by the team. The morning roundup: Hitman616 chimes in. Ethereum Pui Gusset is at 39.15 on the old money line, and 0.033 climbing up on that ratio. Harpo Cryptes. Our weekly haiku courtesy of JS Tears. Cousins in disgust. Distrust Ether as robust. The month of August. How does he do it? JS Tears, how do you do it every single week? And of course, the Chota says it's Chota time. All right, user Grow the Pie shares their answers to 3 Ethereum questions. User Grow the Pie from, growthepie.xyz is the number 52 for this week. Number 1, we joined 50 teams to answer the following questions. Number 1, describe Ethereum in 3 words. Ooh. Number 2, what could make Ethereum fail? And number 3, what does Ethereum still need to get right to succeed in the next 10 years? Our answers, since they had to be short. Number 1, bringing everything on chain. Ooh. Number 2, that's a difficult one. What could make Ethereum fail? Their answer, if we were to stop innovating and ossify too soon, we wouldn't fail, but we would fall short of our full potential. Yeah, that's right. Thankfully, there's loads left on the roadmap, and upgrades are becoming more regular and ambitious. And number 3, what does Ethereum still need to get right to succeed in the next decade? They answer, we need to keep scaling whilst remaining decentralized and permissionless. There is so much room for this pie to grow, but we don't just want to onboard existing companies. We need to continue to support and encourage new innovation too. We'd love to hear the community here answer these questions. You can see our video reply and the other team's replies at this URL located at dailydoots.com. Thank you, growthepie.eth. Loring, I'll ask you the questions that they were asked. Describe Ethereum in 3 words. What could make it fail? And what does Ethereum still need to get right to succeed in the next decade? And if you don't have great answers, Logri the Bard will have some of his own answers. I have to sit here and think a little bit, like describing Ethereum in 3 words. What do you think?
First thing that popped into my mind was global settlement layer.
Oh, nice. I like that. That's good. I like that. That's pretty good. Yeah, global.
I mean, that's kind of cliche. I'm definitely riding the zeitgeist of the day with that one. But I think it's a bold vision. And I think
it captures
I think we can do it.
Yeah, I think that is one of the greatest, like, 3-word marketing slogans we've ever had. You know? ETH is money.
It's
nice.
not great as marketing because no one knows what settlement is outside of us nerds, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Okay.
but he's spot on in terms of, like, yes, that captures it succinctly. You just have to know what settlement is and what a settlement layer is and why the existing settlement layers aren't global. And welcome to the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I love it. What could make Ethereum fail? Yeah, that's also difficult. I mean, outside of like a wild, AI invasive kind of, brain rot of like an AI fungus of the chain somehow that just self-eats in a way that cripples it because a bad actor or some quantum mechanic figured out a way just to nuke it. But by that point, everything is trash.
Not being understood. I think we were on the verge.
That's
even
fair.
Earlier this year, it felt like we were on the verge of failure. Just like we have all this potential, the technology is there, but we built this Field of Dreams style.
Yep.
No one was out there evangelizing it. Ethereum wasn't understood, so we saw worse technologies gaining adoption in uncomfortable ways, and that is our failure.
Well, yeah.
I could say, look, Betamax was technically superior to VHS, right? And it failed, right? Just having the best technical product is not the only thing that leads to market success. We have all of this potential to improve the world with all kinds of understanding of game theoretic stuff like commit reveal schemes. And it won't matter unless you can make people see the value in that and care a whole awful lot and make the world a better place.
Success and failure. And if we think about a global settlement layer, we need something which is trusted by everyone, including the most adversarial actors on Earth and the most powerful actors on Earth. And in order to do that, we need Ethereum to be extremely credibly neutral on many different levels, right?
Obsessed
It is
with
one of the blockchain superpowers, right? It's like,
yeah.
Is
But
China going to trust a U.S. system with their money layer? No.
yeah,
You
and
need a unified monetary rail to solve some of the largest global coordination issues threatening our species. Yes. So
now
here you
I'm
are.
going to be a little bit self-serving here and kind of tie this back into my core message.
Do it.
But if we have trusted actors in our transaction supply chain that have the ability to censor transactions or which can be bribed in order to extract value for themselves while stealing money from other people, that is not credibly neutral. And unfortunately, that is the current state of affairs in Ethereum. And I know that, core developers have censorship resistance really high on their list of priorities. They showed that last night in the core developer call. But I think that if we have a transaction supply chain which has centralized components or which has trusted parties as a part of it, that we will not be credibly neutral, and as a result, we will not be a trusted global settlement layer. We might be a global settlement layer which no one cares about, but we won't be a global settlement layer that everyone uses and has a global importance like we all envision.
Yeah.
I think that the base value we already have is already so substantial that the fact that we aren't getting adoption, like let's take, I've talked to like the CEO of Bitwise, like I've talked to numerous ETF issuers, I've talked to restaking providers, I've talked to hedge funds and investment firms. Ethereum is not understood. Like, it's not like they're going to say, oh, this TPS is better than that TPS. They don't know what a TPS is. They don't really understand centralized tech at all. Wall Street isn't interested until there's profits being made. And they care about regulatory risk more than they care about, many of the benefits that we have to offer. The incentive systems of the existing world are such that anything that reinforces the status quo is exponentially more likely to be adopted than something that challenges it.
Yeah.
And we are something that up until the recent, pivot of our administration in the U.S., we have been crypto anarchists, bring down the monetary system, replace it with Bitcoins, new store of value, digital gold, blah, blah, blah. But it's all this stuff that challenges the status quo. Whereas now with the Genius Bill, they are like, okay, this can reinforce U.S. dollar hegemony, full send it, right? Now we're going to make it legal for everyone to make money. Now we're going to make, and you can see the change in sentiment and adoption and price and narrative and, across the board. So I agree with what you're saying that we need a global settlement layer that needs to be credibly neutral. That is the only way we're going to get a brighter future that can solve some human coordination problems that otherwise just can't be solved without basically a single global military power that can enforce its rule over people with an iron thumb, right? Without the next alternative, that is economic coercion through a unified monetary rail that we can attach rules to. And we can't get that latter option without a real credible neutral platform that adversarial actors can both trust. Yeah. So I'm 100% on board with what you said, but if the spirit of your point is that's what's holding back adoption, it isn't. They don't understand the first thing about a blockchain, right? Like the only reason that they're buying any cryptocurrency is because it has shown to have price decorrelation, and so they have a fiduciary duty to throw 1% into it, and they just buy Bitcoin cuz, right? They don't understand. They're never going to use the chain. They're never going to set up a wallet. They're never going to transact on it. They don't know what Net2 is. They don't know what a TPS is. The degree of ignorance is astounding for this being a $500 billion asset.
Going back to what I was saying earlier, and I think you said it well, both of you guys. Just to go back to this, what could make Ethereum fail, and then I went on this diatribe of like a quantum computer fungus AI thing, and then Logri's just like, well, I think actually just not being understood is probably the worst thing.
Just stupidity, human stupidity.
Apathy, like, God dang it. Yeah, you're right. I just wanted to burn in a sexy way, like, like tear it down in some cool, like, Hollywood style thing. But no, I think you're right. I think apathy and just ignorance is good enough. All right, we're going to move on down the list. Alexis Kef shares the latest development from CowSwap. Alexis Kef, KF, is a duder number 70. Or Alex is KF. I think I said that wrong. CowSwap is kicking ass once more. They're now enabling swapping across chains. Whoa, cross-chain DeFi is the dream, but the reality? A frustrating dance of separate bridges, swaps, high fees, and security risks. Billions lost to vulnerabilities. It's time for a change. Starting today, CowSwap users can swap across chains. I have tried a dev version of this around 1 month ago. It works flawlessly. Edit. Fun fact, they have created an NFT together with Bungie, who is their bridging partner on this. For the release, you can mint it here at OpenSea, and the link is located at dailydoots.com. Hell yeah. I love CowSwap. I don't know how many of you guys out there have used it. If you have, drop a comment, maybe a moo. Big fan of CowSwap. I was one of my friends turned me on to them, and I used them, and it just works. But now that they're bridging across different layer twos, I'm guessing, right? Cross-chain DeFi is a dream. Okay. Maybe one of you guys could let's just open up the link and look at it for sure, just to see what's supported by that. Frustrating. Yep. Okay. That was their quote. Bungie Exchange. Imagine swapping USDC on Ethereum for Gnosis on Gnosis chain in one transaction. No more jiggling apps, no extra steps. Just pure, unadulterated cross-chain trading convenience. God, that's almost pornographic. What makes it special? All-in-one convenience. Swap and bridge in a single transaction, all within CowSwap. Holy crap. Good on them. They are going to get a like and a retweet right on the stream. If you want to do the same, you can find that obviously right there on their channel. I'll also paste it right here on the little whizzy gidget here. You can see I have a comment on this page right here on our stream. Twitter.com, x.com/CowSwap. You'll find it. Go retweet them. Give them some love. Thank you, CowSwap, for making cool ass shit. Love it.
CowSwap is another one of those things where the MEV was kind of subtle. So you got these DEX aggregators like 1inch, right? And they would say, oh, well, we didn't take any fees from you, but they're taking all the allowable slippage. They basically force sandwich attack you as their profit, right? That was one of those sneaky kind of MV things that they inserted in order to say, we take no fees from you, when they totally do.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm happy to give them a few fees for the service because it is slick.
CowSwap didn't do that, I believe. That was a 1inch, I think.
Oh, 1inch. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Sorry, I misspoke. ADHD. I was looking at something else because our next user, I was like, I know this person's name. El Iter Ilote asks about Joe Lubin's comment about thinking we're at the end of a global macro super cycle, and user Harog explains his theory. El Iter Ilote is a duder number 4. Harog is our leaderboard winner at 249 on the old Doots rich list. El Iter Ilote writes in a few interviews regarding SharpLink, also known as SBET, Joe Lubinskin has discussed how he believes we are coming to the end of a super cycle, referring to fiat reserve currencies and national debt. He's suggested that Ray Dalio and Strauss talk about this, maybe others, and while I've been able to find Ray Dalio's books and other media, I don't know who Strauss is or where to begin with him. Can anyone point me in the right direction? Harog replies, if you Google fourth turning, you will find the Strauss-Howe generational theory. God, Harog, always with the killer shit. In my understanding, the generational theory sees cyclical patterns in the American and more generally Western history. Each of these cycles is several decades long, 60 to 120 years or so, and each cycle can be subdivided into 4 distinct generations of about 15 to 30 years in length. He's got a series of bullet points here. The first generation, called the high, is the one which builds up institutions. There's a strong community spirit and is generally an optimistic period. The second generation is called the awakening. The awakening is focused on individualism pushes for freedom of expression. The third generation, called unraveling, is peak individualism and a mistrust of institutions starts to emerge. Social cohesion goes down. The fourth turning, called crisis, is the period where society has to face many challenges which make it necessary that institutions are getting reformed/rebuilt. Afterwards, a new first generation starts a new cycle. According to the followers of this theory, we are currently in the fourth turning, which is the crisis. Depending who you follow, we've been there for 25 years already, or only since COVID. So, if this is true, we might stay in this fourth turning for a few more years or decades. The theory and books...
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. The theory and books around it were first published in the 90s, and it got quite a few followers. But this way of analysis of Western history is also very much criticized, as there is really not a very objective way to clearly distinguish these generations over the last 500 years or so. Nevertheless, many people have been influenced by this cyclical view of the world. I would guess Ray Dalio has also been influenced by this view of the world when he wrote the book, The Changing World Order, which looks at the most influential countries over the last few hundred years, how they have risen to power and how they have vanished again. According to Ray Dalio, the world order sees a change of the leading power, with the U.S. losing influence and China gaining it. This, he says, will be similar to what happened 100 years ago when the UK started losing its grip on the world, or the Netherlands 250 years ago. Interesting. I'm wondering what other subsequent replies were there. Tricky Troll. I'll read out Tricky Troll, one of our curators here. I personally think the fourth turning is directionally correct, but it goes way too much unnecessary detail. I think it's as simple as generations in the West who have never experienced hardship don't know how to avoid the political path which leads to it. People in the West haven't experienced hardship. Okay, I don't think I agree with that. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. So once the old guard of people who saw the horrors of World War II have passed, there are no more altruistic people, or maybe more accurately, people who are cautious of historical pitfalls in power, and government gets corrupted by people who just want to enrich themselves. Meanwhile, the average populace is no longer averse to populist messaging. Combine that with demographic decline, which comes from a post-crisis boom, such as baby boomers, and top-heavy population pyramid when the boomers are all retired, adds to the headwinds impacting younger generations. This increases their discontent and their vulnerability to populist messaging. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let that one sit. Either of you guys got anything to add to that? All right. I'm going to move on. Because we're going to get... Well, it does smell a lot like pre-World War I right now, doesn't it? We've just come out of COVID and they had the Spanish flu and during World War I, you know, and things are kind of heating up. I mean, people like patterns. People like to recognize patterns. That's probably all I'm going to say about it, though. Okay, user Edmund Edgar outlines some genuine risks of the pro-crypto legislation. Fellow Redditor Edmund Edgar, longtime supporter of our Ethereum as a moderator, is a duder number 36 for this week. Okay. The argument on the Genius Act is that if you massively grow stablecoins, which I think we will, you end up with a lot of money lent to banks that might suddenly exit for some crypto greed and fear leverage type reason. A stablecoin issuer suddenly running on their bank is part of what brought down Silicon Valley Bank. So it's not completely irrational. I personally think that if you can't regulate the banking system so that it can handle being able to be bank interest-free deposits, then your banking system is probably beyond saving. But it's not an idiotic thing to worry about. The broader argument is that crypto is going to be used to work around all kinds of financial regulations that were created after previous financial crises. Who is lending how much? How do we find out what their exposure is? How do we make sure the whole economy doesn't undergo a massive contraction simultaneously? Stuff like that. It's definitely true that previously we've had periods of financial deregulation followed by a financial crisis that taxpayers have had to bail out. Reagan deregulated the banks, then got the savings and loan crisis. George W. Bush did a load of financial deregulation and then got the Lehman shock. I think the premises here are correct, and that creative people with access to crypto will run circles around any kind of regulation standing between the user and what the user wants to do. I'm not clear on whether crypto will get enough purchase on the real economy that, for example, uncollateralized loans are being made by non-bank actors in a way that avoids bank regulation. If it's just a token casino, then it shouldn't matter too much to the wider economy. But I think it might. And this is one of the reasons I think ETH is a good investment. So I don't think the concern is nuts. That's well written, Edmund. Good on you. Yeah, this is like kind of letting the cat out of the bag a little bit and see what it's going to rip up. You know, we'll find out in 48 months or so with the primaries, at least from the U.S. centric point of view, if the crypto experiment with this has run its course, or if it does bring like actual, real, genuine prosperity onshore the United States, and it does bring a new techno regime, of builders to remain legal in the United States to build what they want to build. Curious what you guys think. Because I gotta get a drink of water.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about the way that U.S. regulations are warming up to crypto, but I think we as an ecosystem, not just the protocol itself, but the application layer and the social layer need to show that it's not just a casino. And there's a lot of people out there who are still yet to be convinced of that and have a natural bias. I actually had a relative, a very old relative, 82 years old, come to me and say that he was fearful that the U.S. government might freeze his bank account or confiscate his funds in the same way that they did in Myanmar. And, I told him, this is exactly what Ethereum is built for. You don't need to speculate on the price of ETH. You can get US stable coins, or if you prefer, you can get a Euro stable coin, or you can get an algorithmic stable coin, depending on just kind of how outside of the US system you want to be. And he, despite being progressive in his views and open to new ideas, despite having a career in technology, he didn't want to hear a single word about crypto because he viewed everything that it touches as just one big scam.
Jeez.
And he's the exact type of person that Ethereum can meet his very specific needs. And yet it's that perception which is standing in his way of getting onboarded. And
it's understandable, honestly, from his viewpoint, because the last 10 years has been nothing but headlines of destruction and fraud and scammers and like world record setting amounts of theft, and just, it's sick. I mean, you get it. The small victories don't get talked about on mainstream media. And so, Now it is for the first time, you know. The problem is who gets to purchase the messaging power. I feel like Ethereum is finally, you know, you've seen it luring over the years where it's like blockchain such as Bitcoin, similar to Bitcoin, is going to be powering this new thing. And it's like, just say Ethereum. That's what it is. But it's like, it's kind of like, I mean, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, for instance, he perfectly lays out what Ethereum is doing, but he's not putting the word in the tweet because he's beholden to like the XRP and Solana and the Bitcoin investor too. And so it's kind of hard for him sometimes to show any kind of like honesty, and that's fair because CEOs have to do what they got to do. But you understand my point. I feel like this year, especially, you know, when the new regime came into power, for what it's worth, felt like the first time the news cycle was actually reporting on the successes of you know what blockchain can deliver. When Paul Brody from EY is getting on CNBC time and time again and able to speak freely about Ethereum and talk about what he's doing at EY, you know, and then you get the etherealized people that finally got together and we were able to get this little push that's like running in tandem with things that the new leadership of the ETH Foundation is doing. And you get Joseph Lubin out there. It's finally we're getting this is what it's about. Because you can report on all the scams and the terrorism perpetrated by the U.S. $100 bill. It doesn't have the same impact because everybody's using it, you know, for honest things.
But I completely agree with you. But at the same time, remember that Trump himself launched a meme coin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is the perfect vehicle for political corruption.
Yep.
And, you know, if you think back, you know, Jimmy Carter, everyone makes fun of him for selling his peanut farm because his peanut farm could have posed a potential conflict of interest when he was in the White House. And when you see that, you know, Trump, yes,
grifting in
opening
plain
up the conversation, yeah, grifting in plain sight. So, like, yes, the Trump administration has a much more pro-crypto stance and has opened up the conversation quite a bit. But at the same time, the Trump administration has, if anything, reinforced the stigma around crypto as just being a den of thieves and scammers.
That's fair. That's a very fair take. That's well said. Good on you. Okay. All right. Looks like Logri dropped off. Kid must have woke up. Pour one out for Logri the Bard on this fine day. Okay, here we go. Astafari 14 delivers the Tornado Cash verdict. Astafari 14 is a new account from an old friend, so I went ahead and moved their Doots number up. They are a Dooter number 42 for this week. Count number 1, money laundering, not unanimous. Count number 2, count 1960, guilty. Count number 3, sanctions evasion, not guilty. That's according to the Rage Tech. And on X, Roman Storm has been found guilty of count 2, conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmission business. I think that was the worst verdict out of that. He should have just been not guilty. Max penalty is supposedly 5 years, but the guideline is much lower. He won't go to prison for like 40 years that he was risking before. And then another quote here, conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmission business. I would prefer, Astafari 14 goes on, I would prefer if he wasn't guilty of anything. But this count almost seems true, no? According to GPT, yeah, it is a crime to even use informal systems, people you trust, or couriers to move money across borders without licenses. A transmission courier isn't actually moving the money. Ethereum is. That's why I think he should be not guilty. But it kind of enables that too well. Well, you can't. I disagree. But again, we got 12 jurors that don't understand anything about crypto. They on purpose pick jurors. I can understand the line of thought that don't know anything about crypto. I can understand the line of thought just because if there are people out there that are anti-crypto that are on the jury, that's bad. So it makes sense to find people that have no idea what it is. But this is again going back to so much of that case. I'm sure it was like technical jargon, and the earlier conversation of people don't care. They just fall asleep. That can happen. So
I think there's also a very real opportunity for Roman to appeal that count number 2.
Yes.
So I think there will be some continuing proceedings there. And also so I may be mistaken here, but I think count number 3 was also not unanimous. If I remember correctly, the initial kind of media reports were that count 3 was not guilty, and then there were some corrections that were made, and
here it is.
People then
here's your correction. Reports incoming that sanctions evasion is also not unanimous. This would mean government could retry both money laundering and sanctions evasion. That's the point I wanted to make. Yeah. Why? Okay. So he needs more money, obviously. At what point is there just enough money to get the lawyers paid to just see this thing through? Where does the more money for Roman go to help with this ongoing thing where they can just bleed people to death? Like, they're going to be able to retry that stuff? Come on. Like, at some point, it's time served. Go on with your life and don't do that again, or what? But it's like, it shouldn't even be that. It's people deserve privacy. Like, we're in an on-chain world. People deserve privacy, period, full stop.
I think, that's the main point, right? It's not about Roman Storm as an individual. It's about our right to write computer code as an element of freedom of speech. And then even more specifically, privacy is not a crime. And we're entering into an era of increased government and corporate surveillance. And people need to take Herculean tasks in order to protect themselves. If you think about it, even 25 or 50 years ago, none of this surveillance existed because people just had, communications face to face, and no one was listening in.
And people deserve privacy from bad actors who want to come in with a $5 wrench, Like, if you have on-chain activity tied to your ENS and it touches cold storage or whatever, and somebody's out there snooping wallet shit, and they dox you, they find you, there's just people there's so many people that have either been beaten or kidnapped or murdered for their crypto, and it's not going to get better until people can do some things like Tornado Cash to protect their online actions.
Privacy on Ethereum means a lot of different things, and confidential transactions like Tornado Cash or Aztec, the new private L2, is one example. But let's remember that privacy is not about secrets. It's not about hiding. Privacy is about power. Privacy is about having the power to reveal information when, how, and with whom you want. And privacy is normal. Like, corporations value privacy. Individuals value privacy. We want that power. And you were talking about wrench attacks, and that is a very real threat. And that's a very sobering reason why we need confidential transactions. But that's not the only type of privacy on Ethereum. What I was talking about earlier with Shutter is another really important type of privacy on Ethereum. Because being able to encrypt your transaction in the public mempool while it's being ordered in the block is actually a type of privacy. It's about having the power about whether to reveal your transaction information or not. And by being able to not reveal your transaction, you're protecting yourself not against a wrench attack, but you're protecting yourself against a malicious MEV bot, against a transaction ordering attack. So, yeah, privacy is so important, and it's many different things, many different situations.
Yeah,
it's about power.
Yeah, thank you for adding that color. That's incredible. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, and finally, rounding out this week, user Gumpa Bucky. I like saying Gumpa Bucky when I'm wearing a hat like this. A duder number 12. All right, the SEC.gov. There's a link here. Speeches, statement, Hester Pierce remarks, and the blockchain conference. Let's see. Peanut butter and watermelon. Financial privacy in the digital age by Hester. Yeah. I'm loving this. All right, Gumpa writes, long but interesting speech given by SEC's friendly commissioner Hester Pierce about how new disintermediation technology such as blockchain demands a fresh look at the societal balance between security and privacy. She leads with the parallel history of automation of phone calling away from previously necessary phone operators who had access to your calls to automated self-dialing. She gets into the third-party doctrine and Bank Secrecy Act, which she calls for changing to restore privacy in light of new technology. Okay, so that link is available on the SEC.gov website. And let's see, so that can also be found at dailydoots.com. There was something I shared. I need to go to my user profile because there was one other thing that it was the direction that the SEC was going to. There's a 5-minute article that they put out there. Let me find. Let's see. I got it's pretty recent up in here. I have a lot of shit posts, as you can tell. Let's see. Fantastic blockchain BTC versus ETH. But basically, it was like the direction that the SEC wants to go with crypto moving forward. And my God, it was so freaking bullish. Just the amount of just how pro crypto the SEC stance was. It was like I had to make sure I was looking at the SEC website. It was that like starkly different of a viewpoint. And it was by not Patrick McHenry. It was one of the people that's on the SEC. Oh God dang, I'm gonna be pissed off. Press releases. Let me see if I can find it. Securities account quarterly staff issues at TAP artificial and series of roundtables across the U.S. in kind roundtable. No. Was it a statement? It might have been a statement. American leadership in the digital financial revolution. Paul S. Atkins. If you get a chance, this is from July 31st, 2025. Okay. So this thing blew my mind. It's Paul S. Atkins, the chairman of the SEC. Good afternoon. Thank you for your kind. Okay, there it is. I want to go to this paragraph. The SEC, the winds of innovation, forging the future. So today I would like the world to go on notice that under my leadership, the SEC will not stand idly by and watch innovations develop overseas while our capital markets remain stagnant. To achieve Trump's vision of making America the crypto capital of the world, the SEC must holistically consider the potential benefits and risks of moving our markets from an off-chain environment to an on-chain one. We are at the threshold of a new era in the history of our markets. You getting hot over there? As I mentioned earlier,
loving this.
As I mentioned earlier today, I'm announcing the launch of Project Crypto, a commission-wide initiative. A commission-wide initiative to modernize the securities rules and regulations to enable America's financial markets to move on chain. That's so good. It's so good. Just a few weeks ago, President Trump signed the Genius Act into law, ensuring that America will continue to lead in global payments with a gold standard stablecoin regulatory framework. Upon signing the Genius Act into law, I was pleased that President Trump endorsed congressional efforts to pass crypto market structure legislation by the end of the year. I commend the House of Representatives for garnering such strong, here it is, bipartisan support. And I look forward to working with the Senate as they build off the House's work and craft market structure legislation that future-proofs our markets against regulatory mischief, cementing the United States as the crypto capital of the world, huh?
I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, that is an incredible, just that section alone, but this whole thing it's a 5-minute read. Everybody needs to go read this. I'm going to throw this in the podcast chat here on Discord. It'll come up on the screen for you at home. It's SEC. If you go to the sec.gov website, and then I found it by going to speeches and statements, and then scroll down, and you'll see Paul S. Atkins, chairman, July 31st of this year. I had to look.
I am loving this conversation. I'm having so much fun, and I'm learning a ton. I'm coming up on time.
We're ending right now. We're gonna end it together. Loring Harkness from Shutter Network, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, all the way to the end. We hope that you can join us every week and be a part of the EV Mavericks community. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for subbing and smashing some bells around here. Loring, you got something you want to say before you head out?
This has been an absolute pleasure. To be honest, I stumbled on EV Mavericks and Daily Doots in an Octant call.
Yes.
And since then, I have enjoyed all of your podcasts from the past, 8 or so months.
Thank you.
So many of my friends and so many people who inspire me have already been on this podcast. I enjoyed hearing from them and from people who I had never heard of before. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to be on the podcast with you today. As I said earlier, I had a great time and I learned a ton as well.
I'm so glad that you're able to make it. Let's touch base again. We'll get you back on. You've been a great color commentator. It's likewise. It's always more fun when our guests get to stick around and help be a color commentator. And anybody that can soak up a little bit of Logri the Bard and get that brain moving, he's one for the ages. So yeah, well, check it out. Stick around after the live stream because we continue the party in the hotel lobby on Discord for a bonus hour of popcorn. It's a fun place to let loose when the parents aren't watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. On behalf of E-Finance Daily General Discussion and the EV Mavericks DAO, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.